Hi guys, I'm Michelle and I'm a Ravenclaw, and today I'm going to be doing my May wrap-up for you. This month's wrap-up is going to be a little bit different. I'm doing 3 wrap-ups for the month of May. I've got this, my normal wrap-up. It will be split into 2 parts because I read 24 things that I need to talk about, and I'm sure none of you want the super long video that would entail. So I'm going to be talking about 12 of the things that I read in this first video, and then the last 12 things that I read this month in the second video. The third wrap-up that I did, which should be up by now, is in regards to a readathon that I participated in. It's called #ComicBookSunday, and it was just a 24-hour readathon where you read as many graphic novels or comic issues as you could. For that one I read 18 things, so I am not going to talk about all 42 things that I read. I will leave a link for that Comic Book Sunday wrap-up down in the description, so that if you're interested you can go and see that. So the first thing that I read in the month of May was an arc provided to me by NetGalley, and it was the science fiction and fantasy quiz book by Joseph McKelloch. I gave this 3 stars. I got an e-arc of this, which made it a little difficult to navigate because I'd be reading the questions and be like, I don't know what the answer is to this one. And so I could either go to the contents, flip all the way back, flip all the way towards the answers, find the answer to the quiz that I was on, and then go back and restart. A little more difficult in an ebook than it is in a physical book. I gave this 3 stars. It was just pretty average. I know a lot of sci-fi and I know a lot of fantasy. I'm okay with sci-fi. But yeah, so this felt like pretty normal questions to ask. Even the hard questions weren't super hard, at least for me. I don't know if that's just my own fault or not, but yeah, so pretty average. You know, I'd buy it if I was doing a trivia night or something. The next thing that I read in the month of May is the comic book story of video games by Jonathan Hensey. I gave this 2 stars. This, while it is called the comic book story of video games, it's more the comic book story of modern electronics and how that affects video games. I had some real issues with how long this took to get to video games. I was at least 50 pages in before we saw the formation of one video game. And this is only a 200-page book. And then the next 50 pages was talking quite a bit about early video games and how the economy and stuff affected that early development. I don't think we saw, it wasn't until the last 50 pages that we started to see Pokemon or Final Fantasy or these big really important institutions, and they would get one panel or one page and be well, I want to know more about how that was made and why it was so well received at the time. I didn't get as much history behind video game making. We got a lot more of history of the world and how that affected the development of modern electronics and how that modern electronics enabled us to get to video games, which is not what I was interested in at all when I got the comic book story of video games. It's not what I wanted. I'm sure it will be super interesting for, you know, people that care more about that technology side, but it just wasn't for me. The next thing that I read was The Darkest Touch by Gina Showalter. I gave this 4 stars. This is another faded pairing paranormal romance type book. It follows one of the lords of the underworld, who is a person who was responsible for stealing the box from Pandora and unleashing the demons upon the world, and therefore has been cursed to carry one of those demons. And in this particular book we follow Torin, who carries the demon of disease, which means that if he touches someone skin to skin, they will be infected by one of hundreds of thousands of plagues. And it's very unusual for someone to survive one of those plagues, so he's basically like just completely devoid of touch for the last, 1,000 years or however long he's been cursed to live this way. I really enjoyed the romantic interest that we got for Torin. I thought she was really cool. I really liked being able to see her point of view, because her brain works in a way that is very different to most people. So it was really good to be able to see what mind paths she was following to get to her decisions, or how something someone said linked to her response, which if you're looking in from outside makes no sense. So yeah, I really enjoyed that. I didn't enjoy it as much as some of the previous books in this series. I felt that the answer ending to their whole touch deal was a little easy and on the nose, and it felt kind of like a cop-out for me. So I wasn't 100% happy with the resolution, but overall I still enjoyed it. The next thing that I read in the month of May is Normality by Kirsten White. This book follows Evie. She is a human with a weird ability to be able to see through every supernatural creature's glamour. She can't be tricked by people's glamours. So she's been recruited to help out this organization in the capture and rehabilitation of some of these paranormal creatures. This was a good, fun, fluff read. It read super quickly. I think I read it in 2 or 3 sittings. There was fae in here, there was werewolves, vampires, shapeshifters, elementals. It had a good array of paranormal creature, which I enjoyed. I would consider continuing on with this. Gave this one 4 stars. I did really enjoy this, but I'm not sure that I will pick up the next one, just because it felt a little simplistic at times. The next 2 things that I read in the month of May were short stories by Andy Weir. I read Diary of an Ass Can, which I gave 4 stars, and The Egg by Andy Weir as well, which I gave 3 stars. Diary of an Ass Can is a short story prequel look of how a Mark Watney made it through the selection process to get onto the Mars mission. So it's just another chapter maybe of the early Mark Watney story, which I really enjoy The Martian, so that was great for me. I was just I just want more. I just want to read more. So I'm very excited for Artemis, which is slated for release later this year in October. Come on, birthday. And then I read The Egg, which is a short story that's not linked to anything, but I was on his website reading this other short story anyway. I was surprised to discover that the story that I was reading people had taken and transposed onto like their Tumblrs and stuff and claimed as their own. So I had actually already read The Egg, you know, once or twice before, just like scrolling through Tumblr or Facebook or wherever I was. And like, I think the first time I read it, it had a much larger impact on me than this time that I read it. I only gave this 3 stars. Again, I wanted more. Like, I really enjoyed the concept and the idea of what was happening, but I just wanted it to be a little bit more fleshed out. There's some really interesting like ways to explore this narrative that I hope Andy maybe like does in the future. But yeah, so I gave that one 3 stars because I had read it several times before and did not realize that it was Andy's work, and therefore I was a little like, ugh. The next 2 things that I read in the month of May was East of West Volume 1 and Volume 2 by Jonathan Hickman. I gave both of these 4 stars. I'm really interested to see what happens with these stories. The art wasn't perfect for me, but it was, you know, still pretty nice. I am not sure how many volumes of this there are. I'm not sure if this is completed or if it's still continuing on. I really enjoyed the characterization and the character development and the world building of this. I just wished we'd heard a little bit more about what the overarching theme is going to be. Because I'm 2 volumes in and I'm not entirely sure like where this is headed. Like, I'm really enjoying it, but I'm like, I don't know a lot of what I would like to know. The next thing that I read in the month of May is The Magician King by Lev Grossman. This is book 2 in the Magician's trilogy. This follows Quentin, who at the beginning of this series is a 17-year-old who discovers that he can do magic and is accepted into this very exclusive magical college, and it follows his adventures through college and beyond. I gave this 3 stars. I didn't enjoy it as much as The Magicians. There is a character in here who I relate to, but I also get very frustrated with her continued decisions to keep falling back into the same mental traps, etc. There is also quite a graphic rape scene in this, and there's a lot of gratuitous violence, etc. Which, you know, I don't mind the violence, but the rape scene was pretty confronting, as I imagine it would be for a lot of people. I still really enjoy the humor, but I find that Grossman's writing leaves me feeling very disconnected from what's happening in the world and with the characters. I really enjoy like the plot and the story. I just don't have a connection to it, like when characters will die or they'll be in a situation where, you know, it's possible that they would come to harm, and I'll just be like, okay, if that character dies, I'm not going to be like super upset, like I'm not going to cry or be like, no, that was my favorite or anything. So yeah, I'm finding that I have a lot of trouble connecting with Grossman's writing. I will finish The Magician's Land probably in June or the month after. I'm not quite sure yet, but I'm definitely planning to finish this trilogy. I do want to see where Grossman takes it and what the final result will be. And the next 2 things that I read in the month of May is Revenant by Larissa Iona and Revenant, an epilogue, also by Larissa Iona. I gave the book 4 stars. I gave the epilogue 3 stars. This is another fated pairing, paranormal romance kind of thing. This follows, again, like a paranormal beings. This particular book follows a woman of undetermined origins. Well, we figure out what her origins are later in the story, but that's a spoiler, so I'm not going to tell you about it. And then we also follow Revenant, the main character, who is a fallen angel who's been living in hell for like the last 5,000 years. He's only recently gotten access to all of his memories, so he's pretty messed up about some of the stuff that he's witnessed. I did enjoy the book. Like, there were some parts where I'm just like, girl, you should be telling him to like back the fuck off. So yeah, I felt like there were portions of this book that could have been more smoothed out. Like there's definitely some bumps still in this that I'm not a huge fan of. But yeah, my main issue with this is there is an epilogue in this book, and then you get to the back of the book, and at the end of the epilogue there is a note saying there is a second epilogue to this story, but to get that you have to go to the author's website and read it there. And the author's justification was this didn't feel like it belonged in the book, but it was necessary to the continuing plot lines to put it in here. And I'm just like, well, this doesn't feel like an epilogue. I feel like you've labeled this incorrectly. I feel like if you had just titled this epilogue like A New Beginning, because it sets up the second stage of this coming series, whether we get that in a few years or not. It was like maybe 1,000 words. Like, it was really, really short. So yeah, I don't understand why the epilogue wasn't just included in the back of this. Come on, it really wasn't that hard. Yeah, I enjoyed the writing. I'm okay with the characters in here. The plots are faded pairing romance. Nothing super special, but it's good fun to read. The last thing that I will be talking to you guys about in this part of my wrap-up is Discount Armageddon by Seanan McGuire. I borrowed this book from my library. I gave this 4 stars. This book follows Verity Price. She's part of the Price family, which is a world-renowned family of cryptozoologists. There is an organization in here called the Covenant of St. George that isn't super happy with these cryptozoologists because they want to make friends with the supernatural beings rather than kill them like the Covenant of St. George want to do. And this follows Verity Price as she is dealing with a confrontation between herself and a member of the Covenant of St. George. So she's trying to look after all of her like supernatural being friends, etc., while also keeping this guy away from everyone, and also trying to balance a professional ballroom dance career at the same time. This is a lot of fun. I really enjoyed where this went. I really enjoyed seeing some of the supernatural creatures that I haven't seen represented in fiction before, getting some rep in here. This was quite funny. There was like really good explanations for why some of like the tropes that we get for this were, like the silly outfit. There's a really hilarious and like well thought out explanation for that. I really enjoyed this. I'll definitely be picking up the next one from the library. Alright guys, so that was the first part of my May wrap up. I hope it wasn't too long. We'll be talking about the next 12 books that I read very shortly, so I will talk to you then. If you read and enjoyed any of these books, please let me know. If there's anything about these books that interests you and you want to know more, please feel free to leave a comment. I am happy to help you out. That's everything from me for this part. I hope you have a magical day. Bye!